Hello and welcome to my Goddess Asteroid and Gene Keys podcast, a synthesis of these two different systems. So today I'm going to focus on Neptune retrograde. We already have Saturn retrograde at the moment in Aquarius, and we have Pluto retrograde in Capricorn. So we have a lot of breakdown of old ideas, old systems, and the potential for new things to be created. So this has been a very powerful transit going on. It began about a week ago. I've only just had time to kind of get here, really. So there's a few backstories that kind of informed my perception of one of the themes that's going on with Neptune. And I'm very much someone who's seeing through the prism of the divine feminine transmission. So this is what's coming to me, really. So there's been a couple of stories in the news in Britain, which is where I live. A story has been in the news a couple of weeks ago about the abuse of young gymnasts, kind of forced dieting, really aggressive behavior by certain trainers towards them. And it kind of stuck in my mind because, these girls' parents have such huge aspirations for them. They're probably making a lot of sacrifices financially and time-wise for their child to be successful. And the child themselves, probably really wants to be the best they can be and be successful for their parents, for themselves. So there's a lot of expectation and pressure there. And this is a very Neptune theme, really, of dreams and aspirations. So this is why I've kind of tuned into this. Then just last week, I've been watching a documentary I felt really drawn to watch on Sky called Scouting for Girls. It's pretty disturbing, but if you're affected by these issues, I think it's worth watching, really, because you really get the bigger picture of what was going on in the modeling industry, which is an industry I kind of touched on as a teenager, but when you watch this, you're kind of really glad you weren't successful because the abuses were just horrendous. You're talking about girls as young as 14 being manipulated, their money taken away from them, being raped as well. So it's pretty grim stuff. And it's across continents and quite kind of, these agencies, big agencies like Elite, that form of elite doesn't exist anymore because they went into bankruptcy when the story broke. But it's been buried a lot. But again, you get the same thing with the dreams and aspirations. Here these glamorous women. I remember as a teenager, how into the supermodels I was and fashion. And, of course, all of us would love to have been one of them, so successful. And this is what so many girls got caught up in, really. And again, they had to move away often from their parents, so they were very vulnerable in different countries even. Very young ages and very beautiful, very sensual looking girls, but, in many cases, so young, they didn't understand what was going on, really, and saw it as very it was something to do with them rather than actual a kind of culture of abuse that was going on. So for me, this is a story about Neptune at his worst, in archetypally. So Neptune raped Medusa in the temple, and this is how Medusa ends up being cast into the underworld with serpents as hair, and she's raging with the anger of, who could blame her. And not only does that happen, but her own sister, Pallas Athena, in the myth, actually takes a patriarchal side. So she experiences this massive betrayal on every single front, Medusa. So it's quite interesting to find that Medusa is actually squaring Neptune at the moment. So Neptune today is at 25 degrees Pisces, 25 minutes. So that's easy to remember. I'll talk about gene keys in a minute. So, and then it's squaring. Medusa is at 23 degrees of Sagittarius, 35 minutes. So there's this challenging aspect to each other. Okay, so Neptune is in gene key 36 at the moment, where this retrograde is happening. This is, as I say, the latter degrees of Neptune. So let's look at who's with Neptune, because I think that gives us some interesting insights into this story that's unfolding. So the first one we have is a centaur called Akiro. She's actually the daughter of Chiron and Chariklo. So quite a privileged family that she's born into here. And she's born with great gifts of prophecy. But she's very naive, and this is definitely something, you could see in the scouting for girls. And of course they're naive, they're only really young, so I'm not using naive as an insult, but more as a state of consciousness of like a lack of awareness of danger, I guess, which certainly I've wisened up to through my life. So I think, this is something we deal with really, and we mature into more of an understanding of different things that are motivating people. So Akiro is punished by the gods for prophesying outside of the temple. So there's an issue with boundaries of Akiro as well. She's too young to understand that her message kind of needs to be contained in a sanctified space, and she sort of blurts it out, and she gets into hot water with the gods for this, and she's turned into a horse, so she can't speak. And then later on she becomes the constellation of Pegasus. Then we also have Astraea, goddess of the golden new age, in 36 line 1. That's 22 degrees Pisces. So this is the beginning of the 36 gene key run. So Astraea is bringing through a really beautiful energy of increased subtle awareness and consciousness. And I call her the goddess of the sacred artist as well, because a lot of this awakening is coming through the practice of sacred arts. And that's something we're experimenting and using a lot in Soul Tribe online community, where I teach astrology. It's turning out to be the most powerful tools really that we have at our fingertips. Okay, so Australia is bringing in a new positive energy for the golden age of the that is coming. And then we have Nemesis. So Nemesis is I think Nemesis is one of the fates, but it's about that kind of meeting your dark side, meeting your shadow side. And so all these archetypes, like Medusa has a shadow side, although Medusa kind of is the shadow side. And then we have Neptune in his shadow side. But then we're going to look at a moment at Poseidon, who I feel is the awakening new male archetype. But before I do that, we also have Heracles in Gene Key 36. He's in the line 3. So here we have a hero, like a positive male archetype. So that also speaks to me of this is a time that Neptune is transforming this really kind of manipulative, patriarchal, dominant sexual energy that men have kind of used, if you like, or been in this consciousness, this very dense consciousness, because when men are in that consciousness, then women are in this raging Medusa consciousness. So it's not a good combination, really, for, no, this is the shadow of turbulence. But it's the gift of humanity. So perhaps understanding at some level that we all have these energies within us, but how are we going to raise our frequency so we're not either acting on the Medusa or Neptune shadows, but in the gifts of the creativity, the transformational power that is available in both of these. Okay, so I mentioned Poseidon. Poseidon is a Uranian body, a hypothetical body. But even though it's hypothetical, they seem very powerful to me, these hypothetical bodies. They're kind of doing something there in the void. They move very, very slowly. And so Poseidon is in Gene Key 1, line 2, and this is the pure yang frequency, Gene Key 1. And it's all about the gift of freshness and the city of beauty. So it's a really raised frequency of that yang energy. So Poseidon's been there at least a couple of years, and so I feel that this archetype is in this long-term kind of opening up and frequency raising. Okay, so just to say as well that Medusa's in Gene Key 11, so the 36 and 11 are part of, in human design, what's called the Cross of Eden. So the programming partner of the 36 is the 6, and the programming partner of the 11 is the 12. And the 11 and 12 are about purity and light. So here we have this amazing healing of Medusa purifying her field. And it has said that a serpent hair is the Kundalini yoga energy. So it's like a purification of our sexual energy. Okay, so there's another player in the story called Salacia, or Salacia, and she's actually one of my favorites. I feel that she is the one who's kind of guiding me the most in my work, strangely enough. So she's a water nymph, and Neptune sees her and wants her. You know, it's like, yes, another one, I'm going to just take her. But Salacia is more canny. You know, she recognizes the danger and she disappears. She goes and hides. So Neptune eventually sends a dolphin after her because he can't get her to come back. And the dolphin represents, for me, this kind of fine-tuned communication and heart opening, like a beautiful, innocent energy, if you like. So here I see as well, like Salacia and Neptune are the healing, really, for me, of the story of Neptune and Medusa. So it's interesting that Salacia is with Jupiter at the moment in a conjunction, just 1 degree away. So this is at 8 degrees of Aries. So if you born around the 1970s, you'll be having your Chiron return now, and Chiron is in this part of the chart. So Salacia and Jupiter may well be transiting your Chiron. You can look that up in your own chart. And this is gene key 17. Salacia is in the line 6 at the moment. Jupiter in the line 5. So we have this this gene key which is about far-seeingness, omniscience, being able to see in every direction, almost like with every cell in your body. And we have the line 6, which is the visionary Ajna center energy. So here we have this capacity for visioning a new world. You know, what if the world was based on stories of Neptune and Salacia, bigger, more stories than the Neptune Medusa stories, which feel to have dominated our planet for, you know, a good few 100 years, really. So, yeah, and actually Mars is in that gene key 12. So that's another element of the purification of that male energy. And I'm really experiencing that, of my inner masculine awakening to a new level, or my inner Mars, you might say. And yeah, that's been really amazing. I've been doing some sound healing poetry performances at the Bradford Literature Festival, and I've just been feeling this kind of, I don't know, amazing energy really flowing. So I feel that even though the Neptune retrograde is addressing like these really sticky karmic elements, it's also addressing really good things as well. Okay, so just to let you know, I do one-to-one readings, and I also do an astrology class, a Gene Keys guidance on a platform called Soul Tribe Online. It's really wonderful community, very healing community to be in, raising our vibration together, which is definitely much easier than trying to do it all on your own. So leave my email address in the description, and please get in touch if you're interested in either of those. I invite you to come and have a reading and to see where that takes you. These goddess asteroids are really interesting. How they open new doors for us. So namaste and thank you. Bye.